So hello, everyone. So welcome to this roundtable discussion. So my name is Olivier, and I'm part of the marketing team at Dataquest. So I will be the moderator of that discussion, which aims at basically demystifying some of the data roles that exist and understand what are the key similarities and the key differences. All right, so I'm just going to introduce the topic of the day. So it's basically been a while that data has been at the center of how companies and organizations are operating, but it's been increasingly crucial for organizations to make business decisions based on actually data and informed decisions. So in the past few years, there was an avalanche of different data roles, and you know, it can be sometimes a little bit complicated, a little bit confusing to actually understand the differences between those roles. It's exciting to see all the data field is booming. There is a lot of different dynamics there, but not understanding that the difference between those roles can be quite intimidating, because when you need to make a decision to know exactly which role is for you, then it can be a little bit scary, because you know, sometimes you have you have a role, for example, the same role that has different titles. Sometimes the same title refers to different roles, so that doesn't help either. And so today we'll try to make more sense out of the differences in certain of those roles. So I'm very excited by today's discussion, and I'm very excited because I've got with me Daniela, David, and Luiz, which are former Dataquest learners, and they will share their take on the subject and on the differences, and talk a little bit about their experience. So welcome to you three. And so maybe we can start with a little introduction. So maybe Daniela, if you're happy to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what's your job now, what did you study at Dataquest, and maybe a quick fun fact about you.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniela Salazar. I studied the Data Analyst Python within Dataquest. And fun fact about me, I love hiking, and I'm excited for 4th of July and just going on in nature.
Yep. Hey guys, my name is David Rushton. I'm a senior solution architect at a cybersecurity company. I'm actually from the UK, but I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. I did the data engineer path. A fun fact about me is I've lived in over 5 different countries around the world. So I've done some traveling myself and actually living and working there.
Hi, I'm Luiz. I'm actually from Brazil, but I'm living in Prague right now. The path I was doing in Dataquest was data analyst first and data scientist. Fun fact about me, I lived in 3 countries, a bit less than David, but I moved, I think, to over 25 different houses in my life, and I really love moving. So yeah.
Wow, Luiz, I actually lived in the 15 houses in my life, but you've done better than me actually in there. Thank you very much for all to introduce yourself. We're gonna dive into the conversation, and so the first question I will ask actually to start the conversation is I'd like to know what made you decide to actually start learning data skills and to go into a data career. What are the things that motivated you to go into that field? Maybe that's something that is particular, one thing, or maybe that's a combination of things. So, you know, I just want to understand what was the trigger of that desire to actually go and learn data. So maybe Luiz, would you be happy to share with us your take on this?
Sure. So I was working as a mechanical engineer, designing some circuit breakers, and I was pretty, let's say, unsatisfied, not very happy with what I was doing. And at the same time, I was reading a book called Doing Good Better, which is about effective altruism. And they were talking about, you know, how we can contribute better to the world in general. And they were saying, yeah, sometimes you can choose a profession that aligns more with your skills, and then you can get good income and you can share this income. And there was kind of a test to define which profession you should go into. And my result was data scientist. And I was like, okay, so for data science, I can use actually Python that I've been using for, I don't know, 10 years already. I love programming. So this might be a good sign, you know. So I started looking around, and actually data scientist did sound very appealing to me, and I decided to move like that.
Amazing, thank you. So David, would you mind to go to the question as well, to tell us a little bit about why you wanted to start a career actually in data?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So previous to my role right now, I used to be a PE teacher, and it was nothing against like teaching. I loved it. And I wanted a new challenge. And so one night, I just Googled jobs for teachers outside of education, and data science, data analytics was one of them. I went down a rabbit hole of what is data analytics, how can you learn it? And eventually that little path led me to Dataquest. So that's why I started learning the Dataquest skills and going through the data engineering path. So it was really just curiosity, wanting kind of a new challenge and just try something new.
And a big move from actually teacher to
Exactly.
data.
Yeah, big move.
Daniela, what's your take on it?
For me, it was a little bit like Luiz and David. I got introduced to data through my undergrad program, specifically through marketing, and I love the impact of data. I wanted to discover more how data can help all of us in our business, in our everyday lives. And I think a teacher in marketing really honed that for me in undergrad. And then I became like, I want to continue learning. I want to, continue making an impact. I think Luiz talked about that, continue making an impact through my work. So data has been definitely a challenge for me as well.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing this, your experience about moving into a career in data, or actually what's motivated you to move in a data career. But it leads to my second question, which is really around how do you do it? Because we all want to learn new things, but sometimes we don't really know how to get started, or sometimes we don't really know how to start the process or to keep going with the process. So the question is really, do you build any learning habits? Did you build any learning habits that help you to kind of achieve your learning objectives? Things that actually the learners here can actually take and draw upon to actually start or keep going in their journey of learning data.
Yes, so I'm happy to answer that quickly. So the big thing that helped me massively was the structure around learning, and what do I need to do every single day to kind of get to my end goal. And so what I did was I kind of just really clearly wrote down what are the things I do every single day that could get me closer to the goal of getting like a data job or a job in tech. And this was like, do Dataquest for like 30 minutes every single day. It was try and connect with people on LinkedIn. It was, research job description and the skills required, like them type of typical things. And I would have like a little piece of paper on my wall on Monday to Friday with the each everyday action that I need to take. And I just ticked it off when I did it. And that really helped me just kind of be clear and focused to achieve my goals. And I could change it, it's not an issue at all. It's adaptable to your needs. But yeah, it was really effective, and it was quite a nice visualization. At the end of the week, I could see the things I did every single day and the things I didn't see. And so that was very helpful.
And did you have to remove certain things that you were actually doing during the week to be allowing some space for you to actually learn?
So what really helped me was deciding when my learning times was. So during lunchtime on my lunch breaks, that was my time to do some learning, even if it was just 10 minutes. Just before bed was a really nice time for me. And I would stay mornings, but I wasn't that consistent with the mornings. I'm not going to say I am with that one. But yeah, that was a big one, and just saying like, hey, this is the times I want to do my learning, and then trying to fit them times within it as much as possible.
So you didn't cut so much sleep then, if I understand well.
Yeah, but I was enjoying it. I know it's during it wasn't a chore. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it was tiring, but when I was sitting down and going through it, I was enjoying it. So that was the key thing for me, is I was enjoying the process.
Yeah, and I think probably by looking at your wall and understanding what you've been doing actually during the week is very gratifying and probably helping for you to continue. Yeah,
absolutely.
What about you, Daniela? Do you have some tips or some learning habits that you would like to share with us?
A little bit like David, I think the biggest thing is being realistic with your goals, knowing, what will I achieve by the end of the week. Before I will, try to, even if it's in Dataquest, like I'm going to have this section done by the end of the week, instead of trying to cram 4 or 5 sections and then getting overwhelmed. I think the biggest focus is being realistic, and then writing out, a weekly plan, or whether it's 2 weekly plan. If you kind of space it out within 1 or 2 weeks is more realistic, then you'll be able to really accomplish it. And I think understanding, like, by the end of this week, like, what will I give how will I reward myself when I finish this? Whether it's like really easy things like nowadays, like going out for a walk, or kind of refreshing things that we should be doing on a daily basis, but really treating yourself or giving yourself that reward to know that you accomplished what you wanted to. And the other thing is also understanding, if you go on like job descriptions, I think that was also helpful for me while I was studying and looking for a data job, looking for job descriptions. Like, what are some of the things that they say in their descriptions that I should be learning or looking into? That was also helpful for me.
So if I understand well, there are 3 main things that you feel are very, very important. It's looking at the job description to just make sure that you understand exactly what you need to learn. There is the not planning too far ahead and be realistic with your learning, and just making sure that you can adapt as well, because it can be overwhelming if it's a little bit too much, because you plan to learn, I don't know, for the next month, and actually after 2 weeks something is broken, because actually life happens in between. So it's to allow that space as well, and not to kind of plan too much in advance. And the third one is really around rewarding yourself for the things that you do on a sort of like daily basis, or what you need to do on a daily basis, to make sure that there is a gratification at the end of your. Is that right?
Yep, I think that's true.
Okay. And was there anything about in Dataquest that sort of like help you to advance, or help you to learn in a certain way, such as like the hands-on exercises? How effective were they for you, for example, working on project or preparing for a job, all those things?
So with the hands-on learning, sometimes, let me use a real example. So my first week in my first tech job, I had to make a Python script for a customer to analyze some data. And I was obviously really nervous. I had imposter syndrome, all that above. And I made a script, and it was quite easy what they were asking for. It wasn't that hard, but I was like, is this code good? Is it written well? All this stuff, like, is it commented? All the above, the things that Dataquest teach you without even realizing sometimes. I sent it off when I finished it to my boss at the time, and he was really happy with it. He didn't go crazy over it, but he was like, oh, good job. And the client was really happy as well. And it was in that moment where I realized to myself, like what Dataquest taught me, like I kind of did a lot of the things that Dataquest were doing, and it was so easy to do. And it was almost like I don't know, it was really hard to word it, but that was kind of the moment I realized, actually, no, like what I learned from Dataquest was really effective. The hands-on projects, the daily tasks, and how they built you up. You kind of don't realize how good you get when you go through the path until you actually have a moment. And like the last Dataquest task I had in data engineering was like a really hard project, but I've not been challenged like that in my work on day-to-day since. So Dataquest has made me go beyond what actually requires me on a day-to-day basis. That might not be the case every time, of course, but in my situation, it really gave me the skills to succeed. And I think that's probably down to the actual coding rather than like not just watching a video. I think that was the most important thing to me, and making me think critically over time as well.
So did your imposter syndrome kind of like left at that moment where you realized that actually the skills you learned with Dataquest could be applied in a project at work, and actually your boss was happy with the outcome of it?
No, absolutely. And like a lot of times, eventually as time went on, because pandas is so within Dataquest, is not many people on my team knew pandas as well I did. So they would send me stuff and get me to help them. I think, and these people with masters of computer science and PhDs. And so, I mean, so that really helped my confidence to build. And it's almost like sometimes when I was learning Dataquest, I'll go back to the first like easy questions once I'm really far in, just to build my confidence and make me realize how far I actually went, because you don't realize it. When you just start struggling with every single question and challenging you every time, you don't actually realize how much you're progressing. And it was when I was in that job and they were making me do script or making me do analytics on stuff like that. And they were actually giving me more to do because I was doing so well. That gave me the realization, like, actually, no, like the hands-on approach is really effective. You might not realize it in the moment. It's like kind of like weightlifting. You don't really realize how strong you are until suddenly you try and lift that weak weight. But yeah, it was really effective.
It's probably amazing to realize that while you're learning. What about you, Daniela?
I think when David was talking, that made me realize as well, it might seem a little daunting, you're learning, and then like once you're in the market or once you're, have to do something data related, you might feel like intimidated, but Dataquest prepares you, and I think understanding that it's okay to feel like that, but really just understanding that you need to like do it and it'll get done. And Dataquest helped me with that, like showing examples of, how to do this, how to download this, how to analyze this. And the biggest thing for me also has been going online and looking for resources to download data. I think that also like hands-on exercises and being able to download data to play with it. I mean, as you won't know, how good you are until you're actually doing it and working with it. So downloading data on like Kaggle.com or any other data set online is helpful as well.
Amazing.
Just to chip in a little bit, something that happened to me in my early change to data science is that I was trying different platforms, most of them video based, so you watch a bunch of videos and then you do some exercise on your own, and that was not working out for me. So what I've done is that I went to LinkedIn, I looked at a bunch of job descriptions from key companies, some cool companies there, and some very realistic ones in the area I was looking for a job. I listed a few technologies, skills that I should have, and then I compared to the platforms I was using, and then Dataquest matched exactly the list I had. And this built a lot my confidence in, choosing, okay, now I'm going to choose this platform, I'm going to focus on it. And I could feel, as I progressed in the small chunks of exercises I could follow, I could feel the strength of the exercises I was doing and the skills I was acquiring. So that was really good in building my confidence. I would really recommend, look at realistic job offers out there, and you'll see that the Dataquest is matching really well what you need.
So Luiz, the curated path kind of helped you as well to not really think what you need to learn. You knew exactly what you wanted to learn, and actually the path kind of like matched the skills, so you went like full on because
exactly
through the
yeah, it's very, I think in data science it's very easy to get a bit scattered, especially in the beginning, because you see so many shiny things around and you want to pursue them, but then you refocus and you say, okay, I need to build a strong foundation, and then I can get all these cool skills and I can put myself out there and apply to jobs. And I think it's a good way of, ensuring you're going in the good direction.
Amazing. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about the roles, because you all three have like a very different roles and they all kind of like related to data. So if I'm not mistaken, Luiz, you were a product manager, data scientist before, and then you became a product manager, sorry. And so could you tell us a little bit about that professional journey from learning data science or data analysis and then go to a data science job and then becoming like a product manager? Could you tell us a little bit about that journey and how it felt for you?
Sure. I actually studied materials engineering in university, so I was in the industrial side, let's say, but programming was always related. I was always coding some stuff to, optimize some little things. And in the end, for me, as I said before, when I looked into what skills I would need for data science, they would very interesting for me because I was already in love with Python, and it was really cool. So what happened to me is that I started looking into the market, and I was already living in Prague at the time, and I could see the data science market in Prague was really booming. Many companies moving in here and starting to hire a lot of people. So I put a lot of investment in the beginning. I tried to go fast on the lessons in Dataquest, acquire all the skills so that I could get a broad sense of what's out there, know what you don't know, so that I could really pinpoint the strategy there. And honestly, I could see in the job descriptions, once I got a bit more information on the data science field, I could see some companies were just pursuing the, machine learning is cool, we want to do it, so let's hire data scientists. So even them, even though they were trying to get people like, yeah, we want the best data scientists, they didn't know why. So this also helped my confidence a little bit, because I was saying, okay, even if I'm not super experienced with the skills I have right now, I can apply, I can understand their needs, I can go there in the first interview, we can chat, and if I'm not developed enough for them, then at least I'm gonna know what I'm missing. So my journey was really trial and failure, and trying again and seeing which companies were accepting people with entry level experience. And it was really fun, it was really daunting at the same time, but it was very cool.
So do you feel that companies as well and organizations as well are kind of confused with those roles? You were talking about the machine learning, and it's now a buzzword, so everyone is like, hey, machine learning, I want to do it, but they sometimes don't really know what it means, or they don't know how to kind of like separate the different roles. Is it something that you see, for example?
I still see this a little bit. I think it got improved, because people are understanding more how to talk about data science, how to make people understand the value of data science, which is good for us, data people, so that we can value ourselves much more in this market. So I think it's improving, but there are still companies that want to pursue this big wave of data science. They want to be in the cool zone. And there's a lot of margin for us to go out there and say, okay, I might not have all the skills you need, but I'm really curious, I'm not trying to pretend something more than I am right now, and I'm willing to learn. So put me in the spot there, put him in a good team, and I'm gonna build my skills on the job. I think there's a lot of margin to build the skills on the job as well, together with your own personal learning.
Yeah, and what were the key skills you use as a data scientist, for example, when you were actually a data scientist? What were the kind of key things you were doing for people to understand?
So, my first job in data science was analytics. I was working in a gaming company. I was doing a lot of user analytics, a lot of telemetry data coming in, and we'd try to dig into the data, understand user patterns, and understand how we can improve their experience in the game and all this. So it was a lot of SQL, a lot of, pandas, and trying lots of different things, trying, because we all want to do the cool stuff. We were trying some fancy models, we were trying some simple models, and then you start realizing that sometimes the simplest model is going to get your highest value immediately. So you start like getting these insights. Okay, so do I want the value now, or do I want, to invest my time in learning the skill? It depends on the stage you are in your career or in your company itself, and you can try a lot of different things there. There's a lot of margin to try.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you. David, I'm going to go to you and try to understand, like, what does a solution architect do on a daily basis? What a day in the life of a solution architect looks like? What skills do you use? Like, how do you wake up in the morning and start your journey, and throughout the day? What does it look like?
So I always like to say that a solution architect, sometimes called solutions engineers, sometimes they're even called sales engineers. They are like the bridge between the engineering team of the product and the actual sales team. They are more towards the sales team because they're the one doing technical demonstrations of the platform, having that technical discussions on a daily basis with customers, and really trying to attempt to understand, like, hey, what is my client's needs, and how did our product or services match up to them? So it's almost a way we kind of create the overall technical vision of our solutions to like the client's business problem. So like my day-to-day is really a mixture of meeting with the engineers, understanding like what's the new features, what's our product roadmap, and how can I communicate, or what should I be communicating with our customers on a daily basis. And then next one is, working with the sales team as well, and understanding, all right, where's our sales pipeline? What are the customers' needs? All right, we've got, let's say a sales rep has, developed a couple of qualified leads. Okay, what products do they need to see and they'd be matched to? So I will set up the demonstrations and do like a platform demonstration. And really, a lot of times I would have to work with the data on a previous hand. So I would have to make the data almost tell a story from a kind of a sales perspective. Like, how can this data that we're showing them in whatever solution or product we're doing really benefit them, and what's the value add for them? So I always like to tell people I try and turn data into the story so the customer can really see that value. So yeah, it's that really mixture of internal and external conversations.
And do you sorry to cut you, do you manipulate data yourself, or do you get other teams to actually build the story with you? Like, how does that work between actually looking at the data and trying to make sense out of it, or extracting, or trying to bring insights, and you trying to look for certain things to be able to actually tell a story to your client? Like, how do you connect those two together?
So it really depends on the situation I'm trying to solve. So I would say the most common one is where I'm looking at data from the platform perspective. So we have a platform that displays our customers' data, and I'm trying to go through it and look for different value add, maybe things that they would want to see, certain, charts and graphs. Then you have the other level that's almost like research and development stage. Do you know what I mean? I'm living in Excel files, I'm living in, Jupyter notebooks, and I'm working with like security analysts in our team to look at this data. So that's something we really focus on, the data. And so from a cybersecurity standpoint, there's a lot of software vulnerabilities, and there's a lot of public data. So if anyone wants a fun project, there's something called NIST, it's the National Vulnerability Database, and it's publicly available, operated by CISA, the federal government agency, and you can download it. So highly recommend if you're looking for a fun data project. But we play with that data, we add it, we append it, we situate for our customers. So there's a lot of that end as well. But there's also, I just join meetings sometimes from internal, and we discuss how we use this data, like from a customer standpoint. So it really, really depends on the problem I'm trying to solve. But I would say it's the full length. Perfect.
Thank you so much. So that's very interesting to see first the difference from actually Luis' position and your position. But what about you, Daniela? Could you tell us a little bit more about your role? What skills do you need as a data analyst? And maybe share a little bit about the career growth opportunities as well present in that field. Because, for example, both of them had kind of like learned data and went on to roles that are just a little bit outside of that data analyst, data scientist, data engineer. And so I just want to understand what's the base for you first, Daniela, like what are the skills you need and what's the growth opportunity in terms of career?
The biggest thing for me, and I've had business analyst or data analyst jobs since I've graduated and since working through with Dataquest and learning more. So as data analyst is really being the bridge between management and the data. You know, what, as David mentioned, what is the data telling us? What is the story that it's telling me? So I've had to, collect the data, organize the data, like raw data. And currently, like we get client data, and that client data is government data. So it's really messy. And part of it has to do like cleaning the data and preparing it for, what does it mean? What does it mean for the client? What does it mean for my management? So being that bridge and being able to tell the story, sometimes it might not be the best kind of data, but it's still important data and it's still available. So once we get it from the client, having that conversation with management, okay, this is what it means. So being the bridge of being able to translate that is really what I wanted to do within my role, like understanding that it's a big part of decision making. So I think as data analysts, having to make better decisions is what really affects the data.
And so do you use what you learn at Dataquest to be able to do that? Or did you have to learn, I don't know, maybe other tools or maybe other programs through your career, maybe because the organization you work for needed it, or maybe because you want to progress somewhere else, for example? And I'm talking about analytics tools, for example. How Dataquest helps you actually with the different programming systems, and now how did you learn from work maybe after, or what did you need to learn at work?
So initially, I was very focused on Tableau, and this is a couple of years ago, and I have the specialist. I did the specialist certification, and now even with the current role that I'm in, it's a lot of Power BI. And now with Dataquest, like they have a business analyst path that is connected to Power BI to making sure that you know how to analyze data and clean the data and organize the data so that it's able to share it within Power BI. And now Dataquest also has an exam that you're able to take a Power BI certificate through this business analyst path. So I think it has helped me in terms of understanding, keeping up with the trends in the market. I think before a lot of people were into Tableau and understanding how Tableau was impactful in today's market, but now like a lot of more companies see the same results for Power BI and it's connected to Microsoft. So Dataquest always keeps me updated with like specifically in like business intelligence tools, understanding what is good in the market right now.
So are you learning at the moment on the business analyst path or yes?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And how do you feel like from your organization, like, do they just want you to learn, or how valuable would be, for example, a certification in Power BI? Like, how do you step out from the crowd to actually winning the market? Because you've seen quite a lot of demand in Power BI, for example. And so how do you get there? How do you kind of, I guess, showcase to your company that you've got the skills to be actually doing the job?
The biggest thing is connecting the data and understanding what it means. So being able to tell a story or being able to present about it without explaining with what the data shows. So I think the biggest skill is to really know, not only to do the visualizations. I feel like that's, very intuitive, especially if you know Tableau, you'll get Power BI, but really putting the data, what are some of the ways that you can translate that data and connecting it, extracting it, organize it, interpreting. Those are all the skills that you need to really know to really be able to talk about it to the client. So that is the biggest skill for me, I think, understanding what the data means and being able to tell that story.
Amazing. So there is a lot of soft skills as well that are probably required in terms of not just kind of like creating visualization, but as well being able to convey and tell a story to the stakeholders, whether they are kind of like part of your team or there are other stakeholders within the company. So
Right.
that goes to actually how do each of those kind of like roles work together? I just wanted to know, and maybe Luis, you can start as a product manager. Do you work with other data professionals, maybe data analysts, maybe business analysts, or other type of data professionals? And how does that work? What skills do you need to be able to actually work with them?
Currently working with a lot of different people in different roles, so there are a lot of data engineers, there are other product managers, salespeople, marketing people. It's really a myriad of roles there, and you have to, I think, as Daniela was saying, you have to be sure you have storytelling skills, because this is extremely valuable. You need to understand how to, you have the data, but people are not interested in the data. They are interested in what the data can say to you and how can you make it actionable, because in the end you want to do, grow your business based on what you're getting from the data. So yeah, understanding how to deal with different people, how to understand the level of information they need as well. Salespeople don't need the same level of information as your solutions architect or data engineers. So you have to talk to them in a way that they understand the value of the information you were sharing. I think really understanding, having a solid understanding of what your data means, how it's structured, so that you can build a story around it is really good. And one skill that I had impression was a bit undervalued in my, when I was working more in data science, is that understanding which type of graph you use in each situation. I know it sounds very stupid, but you look around, you look at dashboards around the internet, and you see line graphs being used for stuff that should not be using line graphs. And it's very important because sometimes you convey a very different message depending on the type of graph you're using. So really look at how to present your data, how to build a story around the graphs you were showing, the data tables you were showing, and everything.
That requires quite a strong critical thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Not just about the skills in terms of like knowing how to create that chart, but it's like, which one do I need to actually create to be able to actually convey the story? And so in your work as a product manager, do you work mainly with like data analysts or business analysts? Like, who is bringing you that data or that extracted data that like has some sort of sense for you to actually make decisions in your daily job, and actually knowing as a product manager what next feature or what next things that you are going to actually build? Like, who is the key data role that you're working with?
I think I would say, there are a lot of the client facing people. They are the key people that I'm talking to understand user needs, because in the end, what we want to do is to give the highest value to the end user. We work with a platform that other clients, it's a B2B2C platform. So we have our clients and they have their own clients. So understanding what they need to get the most out of our platform so that they grow their business is really important. So I'm working a lot with the people, the client-facing people, sales people, client support team, and yeah. So we collect a lot of data from their usage of the platform, from their feedback, even discussions in meetings, and we prioritize based on that.
Right. And what about you, David? Because I guess as a solution architect, you need to talk to a lot of different data roles, particularly. So could you let us know, like, what are the, I don't know, maybe 2 key data roles that are very connected to what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have a few different roles in my company. So the biggest one is our security analysts. So these are the ones that do scanning of the customer's environment, and they look for software vulnerabilities. And this comes with a lot of data. So what these guys do is they take that data, they plug it into that platform, and they actually apply threat intelligence. So are hackers talking about these specific vulnerabilities that are impacted by the customers, and they help prioritize, and they also segment the data, depending on the customer's network. So there's a very data intensive job. They're really clicking through a lot. They're making scripts. They're really looking for that data and really trying to imply, what is, so going back to what Luiz and Daniela says, is what's the story, what's the value? And from our perspective, when we look at data, we try to assess what is the customer's current risk from a cybersecurity, without going too technical, is what's their current risk of being, attacked by hackers? And then how can we improve, reduce that risk? What actions can they take from the data that they have from our scanning and the intelligence that we collect on a daily basis, and also our machine learning models that we do as well on the data as well. So we really look for that data, we assess the risk, and we give them actionable steps from the data and how they can reduce that risk. So the security analyst one is a really big one. And I would say that data is one of the key skills that we really look for when hiring. And of course, we look for, domain expertise in cybersecurity, but that's nothing that another course can do. And so I think, if you were to get cybersecurity knowledge and to get a, Dataquest skills under your belt, I think you'd be quite formidable in the cybersecurity job market today, which is absolutely growing and booming. So, and that really comes to the point of, don't restrict yourself to every job title that just had data in it or analyst in it. And that was a mistake I made at the start. A lot of roles require data as the skills for that position. And it could be consultant, it could be even sales people. Some of my sales colleagues will work with data as well on a daily basis. It might be Excel, but it's still data and it's still being informative. So yeah, and then the next role is, of course, we have data scientists who are looking at the data that we're collecting, on a daily basis, and making machine learning models over that as well. But we also have machine learning engineers who are managing the models and pushing the model into production. We also have, the actual data engineers as well. So we have really everything. So for that full data cycle, is that what we kind of call it? We got the data collection that people, scraping from the internet. We have the data engineers who are normalizing that data and pushing it through pipelines to get to that MongoDB. We have our database administrators that are managing the databases on a daily basis. Then we have our data scientists who are, making the new models. Then we've got our machine learning engineers who are pushing that research that the data scientists are doing and pushing it to production so the customers can actually see it. So it's a full cycle, it really is. But then of course, the product managers are always within the data as well, and they're always assessing, asking the questions, and doing it themselves a lot of the time. So I would really, don't restrict yourself. I would look at the skills that the job is asking for and see if you match them skills rather than really the title itself.
Thanks, David. And I think there is something that's quite interesting in what you said around the ability to transfer your skills to so many different jobs when you're right. Actually in data. So thanks to the three of you for actually going through that roundtable discussion. So we'll now start the Q&A. The first one that I've got is actually around building a portfolio as a data analyst to become a professional, and probably like how do you get to this? Like, how do you build your portfolio? How do you enter that world to be able to actually go and showcase your skills to employer?
I think the biggest one is Dataquest really helps you with that. So, do you know what I mean? Don't go crazy at the start. Just, follow as a Dataquest, follow as a cycle. There's a reason why it's made as it is, because it really helps you, progress slowly and effectively. So do the project at Dataquest and use that as inspiration for your own ideas. So that was really a big benefit to me. Is I kept reading Reddit, like, do your own project, do your own projects. But that just made me really overwhelmed, and it wasn't structured and stuff like that. And I didn't feel ready to be in that wide open world of, I don't know what's going on. But once I did the whole Dataquest path and I did all the projects required, it really set the foundation. Okay, now I'm ready to kind of do it on my own. So I think that'll be the most effective personally. And of course, if you guys know of an industry that you want to focus on, like I think someone in the chat mentioned healthcare analytics, maybe concentrate on some data regarding healthcare. So I think that'll be quite advisable when you're applying for jobs.
Thank you. I've got a question from Ricardo that just said that he just started as a business analyst role and would like to know what are the guest opinion on how valuable our role changes between actually analytics roles from BA to actually data analyst or other data roles in any way. Maybe that's a question for you, Daniela, because you work both in sort of like a data analyst role, but there is a lot of business administration in your role.
I think the biggest focus is understanding what exactly you want to, as a data analyst, you could be that bridge between the data team and management. So understanding that once you get all the skills, and I think Luiz has talked about this, once you get all the skills, but specifically in terms of, if you want to choose a business intelligence tool, or if you want to choose a Python also to up your skills or to increase your skills, all of those roles have the same kind of work, and then you will do the same kind of communication with other teams in terms of analyzing the data, being able to work with other people. Sometimes I work with the client in terms of getting the data, understanding the data, but then I also work with my management team in terms of that. So I think all of those roles have the same data skills. Once you continue to increase your data skills, all of them will align.
So it's really around the core skills to have, and then you can kind of like move to different positions.
Right, the core skills. And I think David talked about that, not just applying for something that says data, or, because a business analyst can be the same, you need to have data skills as well.
Okay, interesting. Luiz, I've got one for you actually. It's just like, when do you know that you're ready to start looking for employment? And because you've been moving between different roles, could you let us know when did you feel that actually you were ready to start that new job?
Right. I think, to be honest, I didn't really. I was just, I'm gonna put myself out there and I'm gonna try and whatever, and I'll get the experience. If it doesn't work, at least I know expectations and I can course correct and focus a bit better. But in the end, you start seeing a pattern of looking at data sets out there, and you look at the data set, you know where you're going to start, the key questions you're going to ask, and you say, okay, I think I'm good at analyzing things, extracting information of things, and I'm good for a data analyst job. And then, I don't know, you start building your own models and you say, I could solve this and that problem already. So maybe there are companies that are interested in solving problems like this, and I could go for it. So yeah, I think just having a bit of courage, just jumping a bit in the dark can be helpful.
Just throw yourself and start.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good advice. Someone was asking actually how valuable it is to actually learn Excel to become like a data analyst or to become like a data professional generally. How would you feel Excel is how valuable it is for people to learn when they want to work in the data field?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's useful. That's how I would word it. I wouldn't say it's essential, and how well you have to learn it is very debatable. I think, do you know what I mean? Like every job will have different requirements, and really 9 out of 10 that I've noticed is the people who've really learned Excel, have really gone above and beyond, never even came close to using them top skills in the Excel sheet. And so I would use, like, we use Excel sheets for quick data analysis. Do you know what I mean? Just get in there, let's have a quick look what's going on, nothing too complex. Then it would move into like a Jupyter notebook. That's where the really intense stuff, the Python and pandas were done. And then it would be pushed to, how can we make this automated in the actual platform? So I would say Excel is useful, and I definitely would not say you should ignore it, but I wouldn't say all of your time should be spent on it. So that's how I would definitely word it personally.
So that's basically really around learning Excel for kind of like the fundamentals of like data analysis. Yeah. That's how you would use it, but it doesn't need to learn all the functionalities of Excel because it's not going to be useful once you step up into the data understanding. Okay.
Absolutely. And do you know what I mean? I if I'm in an Excel sheet, I always Google something. So do you know what I mean? So do you know what I mean? As long as you got a foundation to ask the right question, and go back to what Daniela said, having them skills to be able to transferable is really effective. So a quick Google search and you're like, oh, that was it. Okay, perfect. That's how I can do this particular task now. It's really quick and easy when you've gone through the Dataquest path.
That makes sense.
Yeah, something to keep in mind as well, I think, is that lots of your stakeholders will want to have their data in Excel. They don't use Python. Yeah. Some of them I noticed don't know what a CSV file is, so you really need the XLS file, and they expect the graphs to be inside the Excel file. So yeah, learning the basics is useful in any case.
Thank you. We've got time for one more question. So I'm going to ask you, Daniela, is it important, according to you, to kind of like build projects in just one industry, or to have like a diversity of industry? And maybe that question comes from someone that doesn't really know, for example, where they want to work. I guess if you know, for example, that you want to work in cinema or sport, for example, you might do actually all your projects in that space. But if you don't know so much, how valuable it is to actually go and do different types of projects.
Yeah, I'm actually in that boat because I'm a consultant, so there's a lot of variety of things that I can be working on. So, but I think the biggest, what I think is the biggest is the valuable thing is understanding what your focus wants. It doesn't necessarily need to be an industry, or it doesn't necessarily need to be a type of, this is the kind of projects I need to be on, but more so like, is it going to be business intelligence? Is it going to be, I want to be very proficient at R, so I'm going to focus on R. And that also balancing, what the market requires, or what are some of the things that the jobs are looking for. A balance of those two, I think, is knowing, if you do get thrown into another type of project, oh, I'm gonna not be able to do it, kind of like Luis said, just throw yourself there and get it done, because it happens, you just get it done. So, but I think understanding, what is my focus, if I want to be a good data analyst, is being able to have those skills to be able to translate it and tell a story. Or my focus is what I think someone mentioned, cloud certification. So having that focus, and then, whatever it is that you want to do, perfect it, having all the skills necessary for that.
Okay, so that really depends where you're coming from and where you want to go, basically, to be able to. Okay, thank you.
Right.
So this is time to wrap up. So first, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the panelists. So Daniela, David, Luiz, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. I think it was such a great conversation, and I hope it helped a lot of the people that actually participated, a lot of learners. Thanks to all the attendees for joining us. So we have a roundtable like every month. We've got one every month. And we usually share it on social media. We usually share it on email. So you are going to be informed about the next one. Thank you so much. We will actually share the recording in the next couple of days by email, and it will be actually accessible on YouTube in any way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.